Hello and welcome to the very first episode of On the Farm from Mush Love Supply, where we talk about mushrooms, what's going on our farm, esoteric health, ecology, and everything in between. So we got a lot of cool information for you. Stay tuned. So first things first, the weather. Weather has been absolutely phenomenal today. That's why I'm recording out in this park. In fact, I even brought my professional camera, my nice camera, but the battery died. I said, screw it. I'm not going back to get another battery because I love this weather too much. I'm looking forward to getting more of this weather. I know over the past few months, we've been seeing a lot of crummy weather, but that's not, atypical for living in this area where you're gonna get that continental weather. But what's really stood out to me is the fact that so many people still came out to get their local produce, local mushrooms, local meat, milk. It's so impressive to see that kind of a turnout of people who need that kind of real food so much that they're willing to make the trip out there to a farmer's market to get it. So, love to see that. I think 2024 is going to be a huge year for real food, for people understanding how important food is, not just to their bodily health, but to their mental health as well. And really looking forward to bringing more real food to everyone this year. And I'll use that as a segue into my next update, which is that we are now at 2 more markets. For those who are not aware, we're now at the East End Market, which is every Sunday from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. on East End, Houston, near downtown. And we're also at the McKinney Smith Street Market. That's alternating. It's one Wednesday, like today, they're over at the Smith Street near One Allen Center. And then next Wednesday, it's going to be at McKinney. So if you work downtown, if you live downtown, you want to hit up that market, we'll be there for you. We have fresh mushrooms. It's not just artisanal goods. We actually have some fresh mushrooms. You can take them home and incorporate them into your dinner. One other awesome update that I want to throw out there is that we finally got some new strains, hardy strains from Main Cap and Stem. Main Cap and Stem is a huge company. They do a lot of business with grain spawn, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what kind of performance we get out of the strains that they sent to us. And I'll also just have a quick shout out to them and how awesome their customer support is. I had gotten 4 different strains. So I got some Pink Oyster, some Maitake, Pio Pinot, and Rishi. And the first package had everything but the Rishi in it. And it's not really holding us back. It's not slowing us down. It'd be a nice thing, but the Rishi was just sort of an extra for me. It was just sort of a nicety. But I sent them an email. I said, hey, just want to let you know, looks like someone forgot, a bag in the package that you had sent me of blocks. And not only did they send me all the blocks, not only did they send me the Rishi block again, they sent me all the blocks again. So they basically doubled my order for free. That was one of the best experiences, I think, in customer support I've ever had with any kind of mushroom supply company. So if you are looking to get grain spawn, get started on your growing journey, I would strongly recommend hit up Main Cap and Stem. Those guys are real. I love their Myco Wizards podcast. I love those dudes and their vibe. So definitely Main Cap and Stem, hit them up if you need some grain spawn. So speaking of grain spawn, I want to answer a question that I get a lot at the farmer's market. How do we make our mushrooms? Do we grow them indoors or outdoors? What are the seeds for mushrooms? So here with me are 3 special guests, some props that are going to help me explain a little bit about how we make mushrooms. And I'm going to do it out here in the beautiful weather. I'm not going to do this trapped inside, so bear with me. Now I'm going to get a little bit into the nitty gritty here, so bear with me. Feel free to skip this portion if this doesn't interest you at all. So people will ask us, do you start with seeds? Well, in a sense we do. We start with this. This is our block of colonized grain spawn, and in it are thousands and thousands of little rye berries that are colonized with thousands and thousands of threads of mycelium. And the mycelium is the thread-like body of a fungi. Mycelium are kind of like roots in that they collect nutrients from their surroundings, but there's so much more than that. The mycelium is the mushroom. The mycelium is the fungi. And it's not really like us in that it's an organism with a brain and a body. It's a single-celled organism, and it coordinates its how it eats, how it colonizes, what kind of metabolic chains to unlock depending on what kind of substrate it's on, in a totally decentralized way, and we don't fully understand it yet. But let's get back up to 30,000 feet. Let's talk about what our process is for turning this into mushrooms. So we start with these seeds that had previously colonized this entire block and had linked all these little berries together. We'll break them up by mashing them up with our fingers through the bag, keeping this whole thing hermetically sealed. And then we'll take this and in sterile conditions under a flow hood, we'll cut the bag open and we'll put them into other blocks of nutritious, sterile grain spawn. From there, it'll form clones, what we like to call clones, and it will form them quickly. We'll go through all of these blocks in the course of maybe a week or two. And as it colonizes all of these blocks of grain spawn, we now have created, maybe 5 or 6 times the volume that we had from this original block of grain spawn. After that, it's time to take it to the last mile, which is the block of sawdust. Now this is a 12-pound block of sawdust that we colonized with the grain spawn. So that grain spawn that we had transplanted before and allowed to colonize those replicant blocks will then cut and pour into this bag of sawdust and mix them all in. After about, I want to say maybe a month, 2 months, we get this. It is a block of fully colonized sawdust, and it's ready to fruit. Now we hydrate it, we give it the amount of water it needs. Mushrooms require a lot of water to be made. I want to say about 70% of that block is just water. The mycelium will go through, consume the lignin in the sawdust. We'll use that as an energy source to replicate, and then after that, this will go into our fruiting chamber. So once this goes into our fruiting chamber, we'll slice a line along the bag and we'll allow fresh air to hit the surface. That is the indication for the mushroom to start to be made. That is the indication for the fungi that I've hit the surface. In nature, on a log or something like that, whenever there's a little scoring in the log, it's exposed to oxygen, and that oxygen-rich environment indicates to the fungi that it's in an open area, and it will use that open area and the oxygen that it has access to now to rapidly metabolize all of the substrate that it's already colonized in, suck out all the water, and then pump it right into the mushroom that it's trying to make so it can reproduce. So we replicate that same process here. The mycelium gets exposed to the air, a little bit of light. It starts to absorb all of the moisture in this block. The block will actually shrink, and then it will make a big mushroom on the front here. So that's pretty much how we go from grain spawn to our fully colonized blocks and then get the mushrooms out of them. There's a whole lot in between there about having the right kind of humidity, but that's the gist of it. I do want to just real quick talk about something you don't hear a lot, because everyone's done a grow kit. One challenge of growing mushrooms is you get something called senescence, because you're working with a bacteria essentially, and if you let that bacteria replicate too much on the same food source, it starts to lose its vigor. It won't colonize as well. Something will become broken. It won't make a mushroom like it should. And in nature, the natural cycle is after you get that mushroom, it will drop spores, and the spores will sexually reproduce. But because of the nature of our business, we always want to provide the best quality products, and we want to provide them with a mushroom that's feasible for us to cultivate, which means it has to colonize very quickly, it has to produce a large volume of mushrooms, it has to fruit very rapidly, and it has to be somewhat resistant to contamination. So, the way we do that is with these. This is an agar dish. And what we'll do is, at a very low cell line of division, we'll take some of the grain spawn, we'll take some liquid culture, however we got that sample, that low cell line division sample, we'll put it on agar, and then we'll colonize the agar, which is, the agar is just essentially powderized seaweed, along with a little bit of dextrose, some food source for the mycelium. It allows it to colonize in 2 dimensions on this little plate here. Put it on that agar dish, we let it colonize, and then we hold it for a long period of time. And from that, we can make little clean cuttings, we can move it to other agar dishes, we can put it into liquid culture and make a mother culture, and then make clones of that liquid culture. But you don't want to replicate it too far on the same food source from that mother culture, from that original cell line. Otherwise, like I said, it becomes lazy, it atrophies, and it won't produce mushrooms like it used to. So that's an interesting little quirk of working with these mushrooms, is though it may seem easy, you just keep replicating ad infinitum, it's actually a little bit more complex than that, and you have to take these things into account. But once you put these systems in place, you're good. You don't need to worry about it anymore. It becomes a system. So, aside from making clones of this, like I had mentioned earlier, we'll also take one of those berries and we'll put it on an agar dish, and we'll use that to avoid senescence. And if we ever start to have a bad crop or starts to get a little bit weak, we can always go back to that agar dish and we can start it fresh. So that's a little bit about how we make mushrooms. So thanks for hanging in there with me. I hope you learned a lot with this very first episode. But I want to touch on one more thing. There's something that millions and millions of people are celebrating right now throughout the world. It involves fasting and it involves prayer. If you know what that is already, you probably know what I'm about to say next. It's Lent. During the season of Lent, every Friday, Catholics should not be eating meat. And so I have the perfect substitute for you. If you're getting a little bit tired of the fish fries, I would recommend you swing by your farmer's market and you pick up some fresh mushrooms. Mushrooms have about 8 grams of protein per pound. And so when you cook up a mushroom, it's not meat, it's not even a veggie. In fact, it's its own thing. So if you're looking for a good meat substitute, like I said, you're getting tired of the fish fries, go get yourself some mushrooms, oysters, lion's mane, super high in protein. Honestly, I think they taste just like me in certain ways. I think they taste better than me. And enjoy. But that does it for our update here on the farm. Thanks again for hanging in there with me. I hope you have a beautiful and a blessed week. And I'll see you when I see you. Peace.